The new UCL format has provided a lot of interesting storylines, whether it's Feyenoord knocking out AC Milan in the playoff, to Celtic almost knocking out Bayern Munich in the playoff, to Lille making it to the top 8, Real Madrid, Manchester City struggling. But there is a team in Belgium that is the most underrated team in all of Europe. A team that in the last 2 seasons has made it to the round of 16 of the Champions League for the first time in the modern era, to progress into the semi-finals of the Conference League before losing to Fiorentina. Of course, that team is Club Brugge. What Club Brugge have been doing so far this season in the Champions League is so admirable, and of course, it is down to their academy and smart signings. So how did Club Brugge become the most underrated team in Europe? For the past 2 seasons in Europe, Club Brugge have been such a dangerous team, whether it's beating Bayer Leverkusen, destroying Porto away 4-0, or beating Atleti at home in the Champions League group stage back in the 22-23 season, or making it to the semi-finals of the Conference League, beating the likes of Osasuna, Besiktas, Bodo Glimt, Molde, PAOK, before ultimately losing to Fiorentina. And all of this success hasn't just been under one manager. It's actually been a very turmoil time when it comes to the managerial spot. They've had Carl Ofkins, they had Scott Parker. Yes, Scott Parker, who's doing very well at Burnley, was a disaster at Club Brugge, to the last manager before the current manager, Ron Delia, getting sacked midway into the season because the league form wasn't good enough. But their current manager is doing a phenomenal job, and that is Nicky Hayne, the former Haverford-West County manager. Yes, that is a club in the Wales Premier League, would be hired by Club Brugge to be their club NXT, basically the academy team for Club Brugge, as the manager. And when Ronny Delia got sacked, Nicky Hayne got his opportunity, as he would go on to win the league title with Club Brugge, and of course make it into the semi-finals of the Conference League. And of course, a team outside the top 4, it's going to be very difficult to keep your players. I mean, look at some of the names that have departed the past couple of seasons from Club Brugge. Igor Thiago making the move to Brentford, ultimately getting injured for 33 million. Antonio Nusa, a very talented player, going to RB Leipzig for 21 million. Noah Lang making the move to PSV, Abkar Sila going to Strasbourg, Tejan Buchanan going to Inter, Charles de Catalare going to AC Milan for a 37 million euro transfer, Lois Apenda, another academy graduate, going to Lens for 15 million. Kazuno going to Bayer Leverkusen for 23 million. And all of these transfers have occurred in the past 3 years. But the great thing about Club Brugge, their scouting system is elite right now. For example, getting Onyedika from Midtjylland for 9 million. Obviously, Ferran Jutgla, who joined from the Barca Academy for 5 million euros. Igor Thiago, who they sold for 33 million. They bought him a season prior from Ludogorets in Bulgaria for 11 million euros. And currently this season, 2 stars that have shined so much for Club Brugge. Zolis joining from Fortuna Düsseldorf for 6 million euros in the second Bundesliga, to Jasadi joining from Luzern in Switzerland for 6 million euros. So Club Brugge's scouting system, mixed in now with the perfect manager in Nicky Hayne, has provided a perfect platform for these players and this manager to thrive. And Club Brugge are not a team that want to possess the ball, and they very much struggle, I think, against low blocks, maybe in the Belgian Pro League. But in the Champions League, you do not want to face this team on the counter-attack, because every time they get the ball, it is direct or vertical to one of Jolis, Talbi, and Jutgla. And time again, we have seen it against Manchester City. We've seen it against Aston Villa. We even saw it against Dortmund. Obviously, the Dortmund game, they weren't so clinical in that matchup. But the other matches, you just saw every time Club Brugge went on the attack, it looked like they were going to score. Every player is technically gifted. Every player knows his position. Every player is physically gifted. And that's a praise to the player and the manager, that every player is so well drilled tactically. Even when they're under the cosh, they're very calm in possession and out of possession. And I think experienced players like a Van Aken, to Mignolet, to Brandon Michele, it helps the entire team, because this team is very young and full of academy players. For example, if you look at the starting 11 versus Atalanta last night, Simon Mignolet signed for 7 million euros. Seis, the right back, academy player. Joel Ordonez signed for only 4 million. Michele, academy. Maxime Dikopur, academy. Onyedika, obviously signed for 9 million euros. Jasari, 6 million. Van Aken, 4 million. Talbi, academy, Jolis, and Jutgla. It epitomizes the excellent youth system and the scouting network that Club Brugge have developed over the past decade. Because Club Brugge in the early 2010s weren't great. Anderlecht was dominating the league, and they were producing players like Tillemans to Lukaku. But right now, this is Club Brugge's time. And this has not been any fluke, or they've gotten lucky with an easy draw, maybe like a Stade Brestois have. Look at the opponents they have played in the Champions League this season. Dortmund in the first game, I think they kind of got lucky. Dortmund then scored 3 goals in the last 20 minutes. They beat Sturm Graz. They lost to Milan away 3-1. It was 1-1 until they got a stupid red card, Club Brugge, and they went on to lose the game 3-1. They beat Aston Villa. Celtic away 1-1. They really should have won the game. They created a lot of good chances. Kasper Schmeichel is just a goat of a goalkeeper. They beat Sporting 2-1. They drew 0-0 to Juventus. Man City away, they took the 1-0 lead, and then the own goal, plus the horrible defending for Kovacic's goal, cost Club Brugge that game as they went on to lose 3-1. But then came the knockout round of the Champions League, and they would face Atalanta, the defending Europa League champions, and we know Atalanta in knockout stage football is very dangerous, especially under Gasperini. And the game at home, Club Brugge could have easily won 3-1, 4-1 if they were more clinical. The way they just pressed Atalanta made it so difficult to attack down the middle, forcing them out wide, and Seis and De Kuyper doing so well defensively. And every time they won the ball from Van Aken to Jassari, it was just direct with the Jolis and Talbi. Yes, did they get a very fortunate penalty at home in the last minute? Of course, Gustav Nielsen, you're 6'7". Then they went away to Bergamo and they put in the best first half maybe any Club Brugge fan has seen in modern day history, as they didn't go 1-0 up or 2-0 up, 3-0 up by the first half ending. 2 goals from Talbi, the 19-year-old academy product, to Jutgla with a sensational volley goal after a brilliant counter-attacking goal from Club Brugge. And the game was done. 5-1 up on aggregate. Yes, they faced a little bit of adversity before Armal Lukman missed the penalty, and Club Brugge once again advanced to the round of 16 of the Champions League. And you have to think to yourself, they deserve it. They have been so good in the league phase. Yes, they don't score a lot of goals, they don't concede a lot of goals, and they're a very dangerous team. That's why Man City had a lot of trouble with them. Juventus didn't create a lot of goals. Aston Villa didn't create a lot of chances against them. So now heading into the round of 16, they could either face Lille or Aston Villa, a team they already beat this season in the Champions League. And I really don't think any team right now wants to face this Club Brugge team because they're not phased. Even though they're a young side, they're not phased by the opponent. The bright lights doesn't get to this team. They rise to the challenge, and I think that's a credit to Nicky Hein providing the platform for these players to rise. I mean, Van Aken, this guy is so underrated. He's just so technically gifted. It's marvelous to just watch him ball out. Same with Zolis, who's just a bulldog of a player, to Talbi, to Jassari, and these players, they're obviously going to move on. But heck, might as well enjoy the ride while it lasts. So for the style of football they play, with the scouting and having your own academy players involved in the starting 11, I think they are the most underrated team right now in Europe. And can they shock one of Lille or Aston Villa? No doubt about it. I think Club Brugge, they gotta fancy their chances of making the Champions League quarterfinals for the first time since 1978. You know what else happened that year? Club Brugge made it to the final of the Champions League before losing to Liverpool 1-0. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, people. What makes Club Brugge such a fun team to watch? Is it the likes of Talbi, to Jassari, to obviously Jutgla, to Zolis? Do you think they can beat one of Lille and Aston Villa? It's been a joy watching this side throughout the Champions League, and hopefully it continues. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and if you like Champions League content, this is the channel to be. Have a beautiful day, stay safe in this crazy world. Till next time, adios.